Order. We're moving on to business questions. And Joy Morrissey, I believe you're at the dispatch box. Joy Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Will the Leader of the House give us the forthcoming business?
House.
I shall. The business for the week commencing the 3rd of February includes Monday the 3rd of February, second reading of the Public Authorities Fraud, Error and Recovery Bill. Tuesday the 4th of February, debate on motions to approve the draft Social Security Benefits Uprating Order 2025 and the draft Guaranteed Minimum Pensions Increase Order 2025, followed by debate on motions to approve the draft Social Security Contributions, Rates, Limits and Threshold Amendments, National Insurance Funds Payment and Extensions of Veterans Relief Regulations 2025 and the Draft Child Benefit and Guardians Allowance Uprating Order 2025. Wednesday the 5th of February, motions relating to the police grant and local government finance reports. Thursday the 6th of February, general debate on government support for coalfield communities, followed by general debate on financial education. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday the 7th of February, the House will not be sitting. The provisional business for the week commencing the 10th of February will include Monday the 10th of February, second reading of the Border Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill. Tuesday 11th of February, if necessary, consideration of Lord's amendments, followed by consideration in committee and remaining stages of the Arbitration Bill, Lords. Wednesday the 12th of February, second reading of the Data Use and Access Bill, Lords. Thursday the 13th of February, general debate subject to be announced. The House will rise for the February recess at the conclusion of business on Thursday the 13th of February and return on Monday the 24th of February.
Before I call Joy Morrissey, I think it's appropriate for me to wish her a happy birthday, as it's her birthday today. Joy Morrissey.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I hope that the House will join me in offering our thoughts and prayers for the victims and the families of the plane crash, the American Airlines plane crash that collided in the Potomac this morning. And I believe the Leader will join me in rejoicing in the return of more of the Israeli hostages today as well. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, it is an honour to be responding to the Leader of the House. Serving with the Right Honourable Lady on the Modernisation Committee, I have seen the energy she puts into bringing this House into the second quarter of the 21st century. And we are lucky to have someone so persuasive in her position who really listens to members.
Wait for it.
Here we go.
No buts, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I approach these business questions in that spirit. And one innovation that would be very welcome would be if the Leader of the House would commit now to our Opposition Day debate dates, which we still haven't had. Another innovation that would be extremely welcome would be for the Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero to find time to reply to numerous letters sent by members of this side of the House. Perhaps she could persuade him to do so. Maybe the Leader could have more luck with the Chancellor. As each week passes, our constituents face more and more negative consequences from the Chancellor's disastrous budget. Last week, the ONS revealed a staggering 47,000 drop in employment in December. Wow. This is the sharpest fall in employment since the pandemic. Job vacancies have also collapsed. The day before the Chancellor's budget, where she launched her attack on British businesses, there were 858,000 job vacancies in our economy. Now they have fallen to just 740,000, a drop of 14% in just 2 months. I know the Chancellor is proud of being the first female Chancellor. But wouldn't it be even better if she was known as the Chancellor who was brave enough to change course? Because of her budget, business confidence has collapsed. Because of her budget, growth has collapsed. Because of her budget, employment is falling and unemployment is rising. Because of her budget, UK gilt yields are at an eye-watering level. Because of her budget, mortgage rates are now rising, despite the Chancellor promising she would bring them down. Now, we have seen a glimmer of hope with the Chancellor's U-turn on non-doms, which has caused some of the UK's biggest taxpayers to flee her socialist nightmare. It is a welcome U-turn. But I feel for the Leader of the House and the members opposite. I can't imagine they ever thought they would be explaining why a Labour government has U-turned on punishing non-doms, but not on punishing pensioners. So, will the Leader of the House seek to persuade the Chancellor to be bold, change course again, and spare British pensioners, farmers, businesses, workers and households from more economic pain? Can we have a debate in government time to explore the many areas in which a Chancellor U-turn would indeed be welcome? If not, will she ask the Chancellor to be bold and U-turn on punishing pensioners and reinstate their winter fuel payments? Will she ask the Chancellor to be bold and U-turn to spare family farms who have put food on our table from her tax raid? Will she ask the Chancellor to be bold and U-turn to save businesses that create jobs, wealth and growth in this country from her catastrophic national insurance tax raid? Will she ask the Chancellor to be bold and U-turn on her 1970s-style tax and borrowing spree? To protect the households now facing rising mortgage costs because of her? This is a task that I hope the Leader of the House will agree is in the interest of this House, its members, and the people of this country.
Leader of the House.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I also share all of our thoughts with those affected by the air crash in Washington, DC. The scale of this tragedy is still unfolding, and I'm sure we would all join in sending our deepest sympathy to all of those involved and those still involved in the rescue operation. This week is also, we saw the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. No one could ever forget visiting Auschwitz-Birkenau, as I did with young people from my constituency with the Holocaust Education Trust. We must never forget. And as today, I will join her in welcoming the further hostage as released in Israel and Gaza today. And members will have noticed that the Speaker is not in his chair today, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I can assure colleagues he's not taking up a new acting role on the set of Emmerdale, but he is instead celebrating the life of another Northern legend at the funeral of Lord Prescott. But can I particularly welcome the Honourable Lady to Business Questions today on her birthday, and very much welcome her birthday. I very much welcome working with her on the Modernisation Committee. I found her contributions to be greatly valuable and enlightening, and I know she does a really good job acting as a whip and as a constituency MP and supporting colleagues across this House. I might suggest that, given her contribution today, she could perhaps give a few tips to the shadow leader when he returns on taking that approach. Because she has taken a very business question style approach, I feel. But I certainly will follow up with the Secretary of State for net zero if there are issues there around correspondence. She does raise issues around the economy, but I would just gently remind her of a few of the stats in that regard. Inflation is down now, thanks to this government. Wages are growing at their fastest rate in 3 years. We've created more than 70,000 new jobs since we came into office, and business investment is at its highest levels for 19 years. And PwC have just rated the UK the second best place in the world to invest after the US. And the IMF and the OECD both predict that Britain will be Europe's fastest growing major economy in recent years. So I would just gently remind her of that, because this government is getting on with the job, and it's been another week of delivering the change that people voted for. The Border Security and Immigration Bill will today be introduced, with real action to tackle small boats and smuggling gangs, in contrast to their costly Rwanda gimmick. The Fraud, Error and Recovery Bill gets its second reading next week, despite the promises from the party opposite who failed to bring it forward. And this important piece of legislation will address the huge costs of fraud in our welfare system. And we've set out, as she says, we have set out major strides to get growth going, taking the difficult, bold decisions that she asked for. And many of these issues actually have been raised in business question over recent weeks. The Oxford-Cambridge Growth Corridor, creating UK's answer to Silicon Valley. The redevelopment of the huge site around the Old Trafford football ground, which, as a City fan, I can even welcome that. And thanks to the tireless campaigning of Mr Doncaster Airport himself, the member for Doncaster East and the member for Doncaster Central, their airport is set to become thriving once again. And we're backing airport expansion across the congested South East. And something I know the member for Cranbourne and Redruth will be over the moon about. We're investing in Cornwall's mineral industry, something he's raised with me many times. And we're giving the go-ahead to the Lower Thames crossing that the member for Dartford has long raised with me and championed for, supporting Port Talbot and Teesside through the Advanced Fuel Fund, and Wrexham and Flintshire through the Advanced Manufacturing Investment Zone. And we're building 9 reservoirs, the first in 30 years, to provide water for new homes. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, we're reviewing the Green Book to enable better public investment, growth outside of London and the South East. So we are taking the difficult decisions, and she raises some of them again today, because we had to fix the foundations to get our country growing again, so that we could invest in the public services that people desperately voted for at the last election.
Dawn Butler.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Madam Deputy Speaker, Brent is known as the reggae capital of Europe. We've had the likes of Bob Marley, who's written some of his best hits there, Janet Kay and Carol Thompson, who also celebrate a birthday this week. And today in the Jubilee Room, we will be honouring one of the lead singers of Boney M, Liz Mitchell, who, as people will know, hits such as Daddy Cool, Rasputin, Rivers of Babylon. I would to sing it, but, you know, my voice is a little bit croaky today. But will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating Liz Mitchell? And maybe we should have a debate in government time to talk about music and how it can be a unifier in community cohesion.
Well, can I thank you for that great question, and congratulate Brent on being the reggae capital. And I think we can all recognise some of those great hits that she said, and I'm pleased that she's hosting an event today in the Jubilee Room for Liz Mitchell of Boney M. I can't really think of a decent pun on Daddy Cool, but she's definitely Brent Cool. I watch her social media and TikToks, and I think she's probably got a glittering career ahead of her in that regard as well.
I call the Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I also echo the words that have already been spoken about the unfolding tragedy that's happening in Washington, D.C. at the moment, and my thoughts go out to all of the victims and their families. When I'm out and about talking to people in my Chelmsford constituency, the issue of crime quite often comes up on the doorstep. Not because Chelmsford is a criminal hotspot, far from it, but because of the often frustrating low-level crime that happens and concerns my constituents. Constituents often say that they want to see more bobbies on the beat. They want to see more uniformed police patrolling our streets, making their presence felt, reassuring the community by building relationships and deterring wannabe criminals. Much of this presence is provided by police community support officers, or PCSOs, who work with police officers and share some of their powers. They do genuinely wonderful work that frees up police officers and precious police officer time for other, perhaps more complex policing issues. They are, in short, very welcome and an important part of our communities. In Essex, there are 99 PCSOs, but not for much longer. Essex Police have just announced that they're getting rid of all of them, as they face a £12.5 million budget shortfall for 2025 to 26. I doubt that Essex Police will be the only force to consider such drastic action. I'm sure I'm not alone in being extremely concerned about the implications of this decision. I wonder if the Leader of the House would consider asking the Home Secretary if she'll make a statement to this House on the effect this may have on our communities, and what could possibly be done to salvage the situation before the experience of all these dedicated individuals is lost and society suffers as a consequence.
Yeah. Well, can I thank her for sharing her thoughts with those affected by the air crash in Washington, D.C. And as another member of the Modernisation Committee, all three of us representing three different parties speaking today, and it's great to work with her on that committee and on the House Commission as well. As a new member, she's really got to grips with some of the difficult issues that we face in this place. But can I thank her for the contribution she's made about those difficult challenges that her constituents are facing with bobbies on the beat in her area. She'll know that Essex Police funding was actually increased by 25 or is increasing by £25 million next year. But I absolutely share her view that strengthening neighbourhood policing is vital to tackling crime and antisocial behaviour, and that's why we're committed to an additional 13,000 neighbourhood and PCSO officers nationwide. But these local decisions are a matter for local police, but rest assured that after years of cut in the police, we are determined to recruit those extra police officers. But I will certainly make sure that the Home Secretary has heard her question today and gets a full response about what's happening in her local area.
Lavery.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Flexible Engineered Solutions International are an excellent example of a strong and successful business in my constituency. They deliver projects in oil and gas and renewables. And last week, they hosted clients from Rio de Janeiro, and the Brazilians travelled on the newly reopened Northumberland-Lyme. They travelled 5,600 miles, and the new line was the last leg. It was fantastic. Can we have a debate in government time to discuss the strategic importance of good local transport infrastructure which allows easy access to people from the likes of Brazil to come to constituencies like the likes of mine in Blyth and Ashington?
Well, can I thank him for that question? I'm delighted that after 60 years of closure, the Northumberland line was finally reopened last December. I would have loved to have been a passenger on that train to hear the conversations between the honourable gentleman and the Brazilians and how they flowed, or maybe not, as the case may be. But he's absolutely right that vital transport infrastructure, especially in our regions and across constituencies like his, are the bedrock to ensuring economic growth, prosperity, rising wages and good jobs for his constituents, and I'm delighted to support his call for that today.
Backbench Business Committee, Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm sure the whole House will express condolences to the victims of the Kumbh Mela in India, who sadly lost their lives or were badly injured. In addition to the business that the leader has announced, in Westminster Hall on Tuesday the 4th, there'll be a debate on apprentices and Apprenticeship Week. On Thursday, a debate on open access for rail services, followed by a debate on debt cancellation for low-income countries. On Tuesday, the 11th of February, there'll be a debate in Westminster Hall on the cost of energy. And on Thursday, a debate on HIV Testing Week, followed by a debate on prevention of cardiovascular disease. After the recess, on Tuesday the 25th of February, a debate on maternity services, as we heard this morning, followed by on Thursday, a debate on rural crime, followed by a potential debate on mental health support in educational settings. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have a veritable queue of debates lined up for the Chamber, so it's a bit disappointing that next week will be a general debate in government time. We have debates that will take us through to the April recess lined up. And could I ask the Leader as well to give us early indication of when the debates on Estimates Day will be held, because we have to advertise and consider the debates that will come forward to be debated on I understand, the week commencing the 3rd of March. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, yesterday I met representatives of Pakistan, Sindhi and the MQM party from Pakistan. They regaled to me the atrocities that have been committed against minority communities. Too horrible to describe. We give millions of pounds in aid to Pakistan, which appears to be diverted away from these communities that desperately need it. So could we have a statement from the Foreign Secretary or the Development Secretary to say what is going to be done to make sure that our aid that is desperately needed in Pakistan is concentrated on those areas that desperately need it, and that human rights will triumph here and make sure that that money is used effectively?
Well, can I thank the Chair of the Backbench Business Committee for informing the House of some of the very important debates that his committee have allocated in coming weeks. He will be aware that I think we have been very generous in allocating backbench business time in recent weeks, and we will continue to do so. And we have been doing our best, I think, to announce business as far in advance as possible, sometimes 3 weeks in advance, which was sort of unprecedented in recent times. But I will ensure that he's made aware of when the estimate debates are likely to be. He raises some important issues about Pakistan, which he'll know from his very good attendance at these sessions, gets raised with me and other ministers regularly. The Minister for the Middle East has recently raised a number of these matters with the government in Pakistan, but I think it would make a very good topic for an update statement to the House, so I will ensure that ministers have heard that call today.
Julie Minns.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. 4 Carlisle men, Daley Armstrong, Ivan Cook, William Johnson and Charles Ross, were amongst almost 500 casualties of the photographic reconnaissance unit that served in the Second World War. Indeed, the casualty rate for that very small unit was the second highest in that war. Can I ask the Leader of the House to give particular consideration in the planning of the debates and events that this House will have around the end of the Second World War, to give particular consideration to including that small unit that suffered such great losses in that war?
House.
Can I thank her for raising that, and I'm sure the whole House will join her in putting on record our thanks for those involved in the photo reconnaissance unit and the important work that they did, and she's highlighted that today. She will be aware that we have got a huge amount of activities and funding involved in marking the 80th anniversaries of the end of the war, and I think there will be a statement of some kind from the Minister shortly about how that will be allocated and what that will involve, and I will ensure that she's heard her pleas today to make sure that the photo reconnaissance unit commemorations are part of that.
Sir Roger Gale.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I first thank the Right Honourable Lady for her further commitment to the development of aviation in the South East, which I'm sure will extend to the development of Manston Airport in my constituency, which of course already has a development consent order and is, I think in common parlance, shovel ready. Madam Deputy Speaker, you will know that on Friday I raised during the debate on the Climate and Nature Bill the subject of public funding for the Drax Power Station, an environmentally wholly unacceptable operation. My honourable friend, the member for Canterbury, at Prime Minister's Question Time yesterday, raised again the issue of Drax and pointed to a KPMG report that suggests that the funding for Drax had been claimed illegally. Could we have a debate on that report and on the funding of Drax in government time, please?
Well, can I thank him for welcoming the government's commitment to alleviating passenger congestion in the South East and his local airport's commitment to doing that, which I'm sure we would all welcome. He raises some very serious matters that were raised in Prime Minister's questions yesterday as well about the DRAX organisation and whether the public funds have been used appropriately there. I think this government takes such reports incredibly seriously, and I will ensure that the House is updated in due course.
Madam Jogee.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I would like to wish a happy birthday to the Shadow Minister too. Madam Deputy Speaker, in October 2024, people from across Newcastle-under-Lyme came together for the unveiling of a wonderful statue of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in Queen's Gardens. Now, there's been much talk of Heathrow Airport in recent days, and with that in mind, Madam Deputy Speaker, and as our nation will mark the 100th anniversary of the birth of the late Queen in April 2026, would the leader back my call to rename Heathrow Airport after Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II? Yeah. What a wonderful tribute that would be to a lifetime of service to the country and the Commonwealth.
Well, can I thank him for raising that excellent idea with me this morning. He's absolutely right that we need to properly and appropriately and in a very big way mark the late Queen's extraordinary 70-year reign as the monarch of this country and all that she contributed to our public life and national identity. He will be aware, the Queen Elizabeth Memorial Committee has been set up to consider how best we could do that, and I will absolutely ensure that his suggestion today is fed into that committee.
Holden.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, the all-party parliamentary group on freedom of speech, which I'm sure the government from Brent will welcome, given their recent slight changes of opinion around free speech in higher education. I was wondering if the Minister, if the Leader of the House could find space in government time for a broader debate on freedom of speech, given I think it's her neighbour, the MP for the Honourable Member, the MP for Blakely and Middleton South, is the Deputy Chairman of the APPG. And also, if you could just clarify a little bit around her statement at the start of business questions today, when she said that the Lower Thames Crossing was getting the go-ahead. My understanding is that the development consent order hasn't yet been passed. In fact, it's been delayed twice. So if she could perhaps provide some clarity on that, that would be very important, especially constituencies like mine who are eagerly awaiting the government's actions in that area.
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank him for that? He'll know this government is committed to free speech and making sure that everybody has the ability to express themselves freely and without recourse. I'm sure he might want to join together with my neighbour in perhaps applying for a backbench business slot at some stage on those matters. We have had a number of urgent questions and other statements to the House on those matters, but I will ensure that we are updated. On the Lower Thames Crossing, he will know that the Chancellor gave her commitment to that project in her speech yesterday. There are, of course, as there always are with these matters, the quasi-judicial sort of process that things have to go through, which are a matter for the Secretary of State for Transport. But I will ensure he's kept updated on those matters.
Harry Gardiner.
Lord Ercht has ruled that the consent for the Rosebank and Jackdaw oil and gas fields were granted unlawfully by the previous government because they had failed to properly account for the effect on the climate of burning the fossil fuels that would be extracted. So could we have a debate on the future of the Rosebank and Jackdaw oil and gas fields and on the UK joining those countries who formed the Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance?
Of the House.
Well, can I thank him for raising it? He will know we have been clear that we won't challenge the judicial reviews in this case. We will consult on new guidance that takes into account the Supreme Court's ruling on environmental impacts assessment to enable the industry to secure jobs and invest in the economy of the future. We aim to conclude this by the spring of this year, and I will ensure the House is updated.
Claire Young.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Talking to My Name's Doddy Foundation, aside from funding, motor neuron disease research needs a better regulatory framework to encourage investment into this country and make it easier for UK citizens to take part in overseas trials. This research benefits not only the 1 in 300 who will develop MND, but also those with other neurodegenerative conditions like the many forms of dementia. Will the Leader of the House ask the House Secretary to bring to this House a statement on this issue?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising that? She's absolutely right. There are people still suffering in, and their families affected by those with MND, and we do need more research. And of course, we have some great campaigners, Kevin Seinfeld, for example, who've raised a huge amount of money in this regard. But she's absolutely right. Access to trials and research is critical to this, and I will ensure she gets a ministerial update on what the government's doing.
Louise Jones.
Speaker, constituents in the village of Killamarsh in my constituency of North East Derbyshire, a community of just over 9,000 people, have now not got any access to cash, not even an ATM in the village. Will the Minister grant us a business debate on this issue of access to cash in semi-rural communities and make sure that my constituents' voices are heard?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising this very important issue for her constituents? This gets raised with me many times, Madam Deputy Speaker, in business question, because I think access to cash and making sure that we've got banking hubs in all our communities, which this government is committed to doing, is absolutely critical to thriving market towns and high streets like those in her constituency. We have already opened over 100 of those banking hubs, and I will ensure that she is updated and she gets an update on the banking hub in her own constituency.
Dr. Luke Evans.
There's a rail freight interchange being proposed near Hinckley and Burbage in my constituency. Before Christmas, the Planning Inspectorate passed its judgment on this, and the then Transport Secretary said she was minded to refuse the application. But in an unprecedented decision, they extended the call for further information, and that closes in a couple of weeks' time. After yesterday's speech from the Chancellor, there is growing concern amongst my community that this project might get green-lighted. So in light of that, I know she can't comment specifically on that case, but I'd be grateful if she'd write to the new Transport Secretary to make sure that all protocols are followed as they are written. And can we have a debate in government time on having a joined-up national strategy when it comes to rail freight interchanges and where they're placed?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank him for raising that, which I'm sure is a really huge issue for his constituents. And he's right, I can't comment on the specifics of that case, but I do know that the Secretary of State for Transport takes her quasi-judicial role in these cases extremely seriously and is very mindful to make sure that due process is followed in all circumstances. I will, of course, raise what he has raised with me, with ministers today. It's vitally important that we do upgrade rail freight capacity in this country. We now at capacity in many places, and where those interchanges are and where we have that interchange with other services is vitally important, but I will ensure it's updated.
Joe Powell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, a former constituent of Kensington and Bayswater, Roman Abramovich, was reported to owe up to £1 billion in UK tax, potentially a bigger case even than Bernie Ecclestone. Does my right honourable friend share the country's anger at people like Roman Abramovich using complex corporate structures and British overseas territories to dodge tax while they pay their fair share? And will she ensure time is made to scrutinise whether HMRC have all the resources they need to pursue this case and recover as much money as possible for the Treasury?
Well, he's absolutely right to raise matters of tax evasion, tax avoidance, and in some cases, illegal tax avoidance, very industrial scale tax avoidance like the one he's raised. Obviously, I'm not going to get into individual cases, but the gap is still too wide, and it was a staggering £36 billion just a few years ago, the tax gaps between what was being avoided and what was being collected. We are recruiting 5,000 new HMRC compliance officers, and we aim to close the tax gap over the coming years.
Deputy Speaker. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation this week forecasted child poverty levels across England and Wales for the next 5 years, and the results are stark. Child poverty rates are forecasted increase in both Labour-run Wales and Labour-run England. However, there is hope and there's a way forward. Child poverty rates in Scotland, which are already estimated to be the lowest in the UK, are set to drop further, with the SNP Scottish Government's Scottish Child Payment recognised as a driving force in this reduction. So can we have an urgent statement from the UK Government on extending the Scottish Government's approach to child poverty, including the Scottish Child Payment, to the rest of these islands, ensuring that a reduction in child poverty is not solely confined to Scotland?
House.
Well, this government is absolutely committed to tackling child poverty. We have inherited a very challenging context in that regard from the previous government. We've got a child poverty task force set up, which has got funding, and its urgent work has begun, and we will be publishing the child poverty strategy in the spring. I mean, he mentions the SNP's plans to end the two-child cap in Scotland, but he will know that there's not a single penny to actually back that up. It's a promise in the never land, trying to make sort of politics out of this particular issue. So I would suggest that the honourable gentleman actually takes seriously what we are doing to tackle child poverty rather than making party political points.
War.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Rochdale Get Together After Serving is opening a brand new military veterans and community hub at Arkick Sports Centre this Saturday.
Very good.
Will the leader join me in thanking all the local businesses and charities who donated computers, carpets and even new windows for this new hub to support job search and skills help? And will she congratulate in particular Royal Navy veteran Adam Trenery on his excellent initiative which will help all the Rochdale veterans that we have?
Leader of the House.
Well, I absolutely will join him in congratulating Adam Trenery and all those involved in the Get Together After Serving team. It sounds like a really great initiative in his constituency, supporting local veterans, and this government takes those sort of initiatives very seriously, and thank him for raising it today.
David Mundell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wonder if the Leader of the House could bring forward a statement on smart meters and their rollout. She may be aware that there was a geographic divide, Madam Deputy Speaker, in the United Kingdom in the original rollout, with properties essentially north of the M62 were supplied with data by something called the radio tele-switching service. That service is due to be switched off in June of this year, but it still leaves in Scotland over 165,000 properties relying on that service, of which 3,745 are in my Dumfriesshire, Clydesdale and Tweeddale constituency. And it does appear that the rollout of new meters are not going to be able to meet the timescale of the switch-off. And I think it is important that we hear from ministers what their response to that is.
Leader of the House.
Well, this is a very important matter that he raises, and I kind of thank him for doing so here this morning, because we recognise how important it is to have that smooth transition for consumers away from the radio teleswitch service. You know, I'm concerned to hear what he says this morning about that being off track for many of his constituents. We will continue to work closely with Ofgem and the RTS task force to make sure that that deadline is met, but I will absolutely ensure that ministers come to this House regularly and update him and other members on its progress.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. A constituent of mine, Claire Rogers, came to my surgery after she lost her son to a ketamine addiction. Claire told me of the severe pain and neurological damage he suffered. There is a crisis of ketamine usage amongst our young people. This is apparent, and we must look to mental health and addiction services because they're ultimately the ones who will treat addiction, prevent relapses and give people a chance to turn their lives around. Can the Leader of the House provide time for members to discuss this across Home Office, education and health so that our young people understand the harms of ketamine usage and can put that to bed?
The House.
Well, I'm very saddened to hear of the case that she raises today. She's absolutely right that ketamine is extremely dangerous, and the rise in its use across many of our towns and cities is deeply concerning. It has been raised with me in this session a number of times, so I will absolutely ensure that there is a response made available for all members across this House about how the government is tackling these issues.
Lisa Smart.
Indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm asking this question of the Leader today on behalf of my own constituents, but also on behalf of my neighbouring constituents from Cheadle, because their MP is on paternity leave following the birth of the beautiful baby Poppy last week. The Honourable Member for Cheadle, his partner Lou and Poppy are all doing very well, and I'm sure the whole House agrees with me that we should send them our very best. Stepping Hill Hospital is in Hazel Grove, and it has a reported repairs backlog of £130 million, yet it does not qualify for the new hospitals programme. Would the Leader of the House encourage health ministers to come to the House, update us with a statement on what the plans are to repair those hospitals not qualifying for the new hospitals programme?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I join her in congratulating the member for Cheadle on the birth of their daughter Poppy last week, and thank her for stepping in to do some cover for the member for Cheadle today as well. I'm very familiar with Stepping Hill Hospital, and you know, I can appreciate what a state of disrepair it is in, and how much it is in need of capital investment. She will know that we inherited as a government a hospital building and capital investment programme that was frankly a work of fiction, that had no money backing it up, and had deadlines that were never ever going to be delivered. And we have now turned that into an actual plan of action for those hospitals, but I will ensure that she gets an update on Stepping Hill Hospital and what more can be done.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Leader of the House for her warm words earlier about the work many of us have done to get the Lower Thames crossing green-lit by the Chancellor yesterday, something the party opposite signally failed to do over 14 years. I also warmly welcome the Government's commitment in the devolution white paper to a strong new right to buy and maintain beloved community assets. Stone Parish Council in my constituency have been attempting to purchase the freehold to the Lads of the Village pub for some time. The pub's been an important part of Stone Village since 1793, playing a significant role in community life. However, despite offers from the parish council at full asking price, the owner has refused to negotiate or sell. I wonder if the Leader of the House would make time for a debate in government time about how we protect vital community assets like these.
Leader of the House.
Well, can I take this opportunity to once again congratulate him on all his campaigning and all the times that he's raised with me and other ministers around the Lower Thames crossing. I'm sure he's very pleased with this week's announcement on that, and also join him in welcoming some of the measures that are outlined in our devolution white paper around community ownership and the right to buy, so that communities like his can take on and restore or bring back to life vital community assets like the one that he describes. And I'm really sorry to hear that the owner of the pub in his constituency is not engaging in the way that they should.
Clive Jones.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Secretary of State for Health made a promise to this House the government will recruit an extra 1,000 GPs. In a recent statement, the Secretary of State said that they had already recruited hundreds of GPs. We've asked for evidence of this claim, but the Minister of State for Care hasn't been able to provide us with a specific figure. Will the Leader of the House inquire with her colleagues as to whether hundreds of new GPs have been hired or not, so we can see what progress the government is making?
Leader of the House.
Well, he's absolutely vital. He's absolutely right that it is vital that we do recruit more GPs. We have been left with a terrible situation in the NHS workforce. That's why at the heart of our 10-year plan that was recently set out for the National Health Service, workforce planning was at the heart of that plan. I will absolutely ensure that health ministers and the Secretary of State for Health regularly come to this House to update us on progress, and I will get him a correct figure, if I can, as soon as possible from the Department of Health.
Chris Murray.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My constituency has some of Britain's most beautiful beaches, beloved by swimmers and by the local community in Portobello and Joppa. And groups like the Porty Water Collective are fighting hard to protect them from sewage overflows and from sewage-related debris washing up on them. The UK government is making big important steps to fix England's sewage crisis. But in Scotland, water is devolved to the SNP Scottish Government, and we don't currently even monitor sewage overflows as much as in England, and local groups can't access what little data there is. Will the Leader of the House allow a debate in government time so we can solve Scotland's sewage crisis?
The House.
Well, the beaches around his constituency do indeed sound beautiful, and I'm sure that he regularly gets his kit off to go for a swim in the seas around them. But he's right that it's unacceptable that sewage is still flowing into the waters and seas of Scotland, and that we don't even really know the extent of it. The Scottish Government, as he says, is responsible for Scottish water, and they frankly should get their act together. We have brought forward legislation that will start to take action on this matter, and the Scottish Government should follow suit.
Testamont.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. King Lifting Limited is a West Country firm that operates mostly mobile cranes across the UK. The company holds a Home Office licence for sponsorship but can't employ the heavy crane operators it needs. The work's not for everyone because it involves very long stays away from work, working on major infrastructure projects like wind farms and HS2 and our nuclear sites. Operators highly qualified as individuals, not through the company, and must also be experienced. Every time King Lifting advertises, it gets dozens of applications, almost all from abroad. The company would train and test heavy crane operators to meet the UK's high standards. Can we have a debate on adding crane operators to the UK immigration skilled workers eligible occupations list, please?
House.
Well, she's absolutely right to say that having the skills for all of these kind of industries that are vital to creating the new jobs of the future, the new industries of the future, through our mission for a clean energy superpower by 2030, skills is absolutely at the heart of that. This government wants to take more action to make sure that those who live and currently work in this country have access to such opportunities by having a much stronger emphasis on skills development and work opportunities through reforming DWP and job centres. But I will have a look at the issue that she raises and make sure she gets a response.
Unless questions are short and answers are on point, we won't get everybody in. I call Mark Seward.
Here, Deputy Speaker. Greenhill Primary School serves the small parts of Armley and Bramley in my constituency, and they do excellent work as recognised in their most recent Ofsted report published this month, which states that the school has improved rapidly and pupils are safe. Now, I've seen the excellent work firsthand, including through their work through the Solar for Schools programme. So will the Leader of the House join me in congratulating the school on their amazing Ofsted report, and also perhaps grant a debate in government time on the need for solar energy programmes in primary schools?
Well, can I join him in congratulating Greenhill Primary School for their achievements in this regard? He's absolutely right that schools could do more to provide sustainable energy for themselves through Solar for Schools. I've got a school in my own constituency who's been embarking on that. I do know that the Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero is very keen on this issue, and I will ensure he's updated.
In Kyrgyzstan, the President Sadyr Japarov signed 2 new laws. The first one was religion law, and the second one was the amending law, which imposed stricter regulations on religious communities in Kyrgyzstan. These laws, effective from this Saturday, introduced more stringent requirements for registration, imposed bans on unregistered religious activity, and increased state controls over religious practices. Freedom of religious belief is impeded. The laws have heavier fines for violations, and they raise concerns about the restriction of religious freedom in the country. Can I ask the Leader of the House, as the climate for uncertainty and fear amongst believers rises, will the Leader of the House join me in condemning these actions, and will the Right Honourable Lady speak to her FCDO colleagues about any policy implications? Thank you so much.
The House.
Well, once again, he raises an important breach of freedom of religious belief. in this case in Kurdistan, and I will of course raise this with the Foreign Office and make sure he gets a full reply about that particular issue.
John Slinger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This week I visited Rugby Art Gallery Museum, managed brilliantly by Sally Godden and her team. I met the Rugby Artists and Makers Network, painters Jan Clark and Aish Majesh, ceramicist Belinda Edwards and spinner Angela Dews. So does the leader agree that any support that can be given to municipally run galleries like this or creative entrepreneurs like Art at the Annex, a former pub run by Chris Pegler and Steve Davis, is much needed to allow artists to showcase their talent, strengthen our community, inspire the next generation, boost the local economy and, importantly, make a living through their artistic endeavour? And will there be time for a debate on this?
Well, this government's absolutely committed to municipally run galleries like the one that he raises. The culture sector and the cultural offer is absolutely at the core of making sure that our towns and our villages and our cities are real vibrant places that people want to live and work, and I join him in welcoming that.
Irene Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In my constituency, the Isle of Arran has been connected to the mainland through harbours at Brodick and Ardrossan for 190 years, and I've previously raised the work of the Save Ardrossan Harbour Group, working hard to fight to keep the ferry sailing from Ardrossan. While I welcome the new ferry, currently sailing from Troon to Brodick, I am concerned at the fewer sailings timetabled. I've been made aware of an island constituent who has had to reschedule a health screening appointment on the mainland 3 times as the patient is unable to make the journey and return home on the same day. Had the ferry still been sailing from Ardrossan as usual, this would not be a problem. Will my right honourable friend grant a debate to discuss the fact that the SNP government and other stakeholders need to sort this ferry situation out as soon as possible and provide clarity for the people of Brodick?
Leader of the House.
Well, absolutely, and she's raised this with me a number of times because she's a real campaigner on this matter. She knows that the SNP have wasted over £5 billion of taxpayers' money on pet projects, including ferries that didn't sail. They've had a massive boost to their budget as a result of this government's budget, and their excuses really have run out.
Kirsty Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Kinneil Estate, home to a UNESCO World Heritage Landmark and James Watt steam engine prototype, attracts thousands of visitors to Bowness. Kinneil Museum, operated by Falkirk Council and supported by the fantastic Friends of Kinneil, provides space to learn about local history dating back to Roman times, but it's threatened with closure and it risks damaging local tourism and the preservation of local heritage. Will the Leader of the House allow Government time to debate the importance of local heritage centres?
Well, what she raises is particularly concerning given that this is a UNESCO World Heritage site. Heritage is, of course, a devolved matter, but we do take them very seriously indeed, and I think this would make an excellent topic for a debate.
My intervention has meant the questions are getting even longer. I said short questions, please. Conrad.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Duchenne muscular dystrophy is a severe progressive muscle wasting disease that affects around 2,500 people in the UK, including Felix from my constituency. Felix's mum, Lisa, has told me about Givanostat, a promising new treatment that could be transformative, but not all NHS trusts are signed up for the early access programme for the drug, even though it's free. This needs to change, so could we have a debate, please, or a statement on Duchenne muscular dystrophy and how we can improve access to treatments for it?
Leader of the House.
Well, absolutely, and as he says, this treatment is under the early access programme. It is free to both patients and the NHS, but it is a matter for local trusts about whether they actually cover the cost of administering it. I know that the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence will aim to publish guidance shortly for the use of NHS of Ginostat, and I hope that we'll update the House as soon as possible.
Donald.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. On the 16th of January, WH Smith in Stockton announced its closure, putting at risk our town centre post office. I'm leading a campaign with local Labour councillors to find an alternative location. Would my right honourable friend agree with me that post offices are vital services for towns such as Stockton, and will she consider a debate in government time on this important issue?
Well, post offices play a vital role for our communities, and he's absolutely right as the local MP to stand up for their services continuing in his constituency. He'll know that there is a debate this afternoon and he might want to raise these issues further then.
Natasha Irons.
Thank
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last week I received letters from Year 5 pupils at St Thomas Becket Roman Catholic Primary School in my constituency, and they wrote to raise their concerns about deforestation. They wanted to highlight the alarming decline by 15% of tropical rainforests and the unacceptable use of child labour by the industries driving deforestation. So can the Leader of the House allow time for a statement on what progress this government has made on its pledge of £239 million of funding to halt and reverse deforestation in forest-rich nations? And can she join me in thanking the pupils of St Thomas Becket for raising this important issue?
House. Well, absolutely. I'll join her in thanking the Year 5 students. I think Year 5 students are often the toughest of audiences, but she will know that the UK supports a variety of programmes aimed at preventing deforestation, and we are a major contributor to the Amazon Fund in Brazil, and I'm sure this will make a good topic for debate.
Douglas McAllister.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Yesterday, the Bank of Scotland announced the closure of their Alexandria Bank branch office in my constituency of West Dunbartonshire. Branch offices are essential to ensure access to cash and face-to-face banking for the most vulnerable and for many small businesses in my constituency. Does the Minister share my concern about the loss of such vital services and the urgent need for this Government's rollout of further banking hubs? And can she raise this with Government colleagues, the need to ensure a banking hub in Alexandria in West Dunbartonshire?
House.
Well, absolutely. Banking hubs are critical to communities like his in West Dunbartonshire, and this government is committed to roll out our 350 banking hubs. Over 100 are already open, but I think this would make an extremely popular topic for debate.
Williams.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This week, the YMCA released its annual report revealing the devastating cuts to youth services over the past 14 years. Spending in Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire has been cut by more than 90% since 2010, and funding is not equitable. In Stoke-on-Trent, spending per young person, is less than 10% what it is in inner London. Families in my constituency deserve better, so would the Leader of the House make time to debate the need to have adequate and equitable funding for youth services?
House.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it really is a source of national shame that youth funding decreased by 3/4 under the last government, one of the deepest cuts made to any of the public services, and there was no real strategy for young people, and we're seeing the consequences of that. This government is determined to turn this around, and we'll work with him to do that in Stoke-on-Trent.
Paul Davies.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I'm delighted with the recent announcement at the Creative Industries Growth Summit about new funding for West Yorkshire. This funding will enable local leaders to address the specific needs of local creative businesses, a priority for Mayor Brabin. This will benefit towns like Holmfirth, home to the Picturedrome. Could I ask the Leader of the House for a debate in government time on what further support can be given to local creative and entertainment venues?
Leader of the House.
Well, culture and Holmfirth go hand in hand, Madam Deputy Speaker. Many of us of a certain age will remember Last of the Summer Wine, filmed in Holmfirth, and I recently went to Compost Chippy, where they do a great fish and chips, I can say. But West Yorkshire is one of the priority areas for our creative industries sector plan, and we're working closely with the fantastic Mayor of West Yorkshire, Tracy Rabin, who's a real leader in this regard.
Andy McNay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This week I met with my constituent Bradley Price, who has recently taken a degree apprenticeship with the Nuclear Transport Authority. We talked about the excellent transferable skills he's gaining and the great career options coming open to him. There can be no doubt that high-quality apprenticeships like this can be absolutely the right route for so many school leavers. When I talk to pupils in Rosendale and Darwin, awareness of the range and quality of opportunities seems remarkably low. I welcome the announcement of a backbench debate on apprenticeships, but would Leader also agree to a debate in government time on raising awareness within schools of apprenticeships?
Well, can I wish Bradley good luck with his degree apprenticeship? He's absolutely right. Degree apprenticeships offer a real career opportunity for many of our young people, and they're still not as widely known about as they should be with careers advice in schools. So he raises a really important point today, which this government wholeheartedly agrees with.
Andrew Ranger.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Wrexham is a thriving hub of business, and the continued investment in the Wrexham-Flintshire investment zone is very welcome indeed. Companies such as Wrexham Lager, Kellogg's, JCB amongst others are exporting from Wrexham to around the globe. But too many businesses have had to give up on exporting due to the huge increase in cost and red tape introduced under the last government. And it's a critical component to how we're going to achieve the growth we want to achieve. So will the Leader of the House please consider giving parliamentary time to debating how we can ensure these businesses get the support they need?
Leader of the House.
Well, absolutely, and I'm sure he would, and as he has done, welcome the investment zone announced for his constituency of Wrexham, a much-deserved announcement this week. And he's absolutely right that businesses, especially because of the botched Brexit deal we got from the last government, face far too much red tape, and it's something that this government is committed to reducing.
Claire Hughes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, since last year, all parents in England who have experienced the heartbreak of losing a pregnancy have been able to apply for a certificate which formally recognises their loss. Agreement was made in principle with the former Secretary of State for Health to extend the scheme to Wales, but discussions were paused before the general election. Would the Leader of the House consider writing to the relevant ministers and asking them to meet with me to discuss how the scheme to be extended to Wales so that baby loss certificates are made available without any further delay?
Leader of the House.
Well, can I thank her for raising this really important topic? She's absolutely right that baby loss certificates in England have provided the recognition and comfort to many families who have been bereaved by baby loss. And I think her calls for this to be extended to Wales are absolutely right. And I will make sure that she gets some contact with the Minister to discuss it further.
Saving the best contribution to last, Serena Brackenridge.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In Wolverhampton North East, in the last 5 years, we have lost banks from Wensfield High Street and all banking facilities from the Scotland's area and the Three Tons area. Can the Leader of the House make time for a debate on banking hubs to keep banking on our high streets?
Well, I think this is the fourth time this has been raised with me this morning. It just goes to show how absolutely vital it is to communities like those in Wolverhampton to have access to cash, access to banking hubs. That's why this government's committed to opening 350, with over 100 already open. But I think this would make an extremely popular topic for a debate, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Well, that's the end of business questions. I'll give the front bench a few moments to swap over.